I'm Ted Keys, your host and top freight agent training expert here in Southern California. Welcome to this edition of your Freight Sales Success Training. After watching and applying it, you'll move more freight efficiently, effectively, and effortlessly, and make more money financially. And if you have any questions about today's training topic, then call me, Ted Keys, at 626-309-9141. It comes from the front lines of 30 plus years of business, sales, and freight moving success. Now enjoy watching, learning, and applying. Hello and welcome everybody to my Tuesday conference call. I'm Ted Keys, your host and top freight agent training expert here in Southern California. This is a free, high-powered meeting I hold live every Tuesday for top producing, new, and struggling freight agents at 2 p.m. Pacific time and 5 p.m. Eastern time. On the call today, I will show you how to move more freight efficiently, effectively, and effortlessly so you make more money financially. And after the call, go to my website, tedkeysonline.com, to hear more of my podcasts, read more of my blog posts, watch more of my videos, and while you're there, visit my Freight Sales Success Store for top-notch freight moving products to truly explode your freight business today. When you arrive at my Freight Sales Success Store, you will see a host of products that are available. First one you'll see there is my Freight Sales Success Guide for beginner and struggling freight agents. I do, however, provide this for when you join our top producing freight sales office. Another product you'll see there is my Freight Sales Success Quotes. These quotes provide you with daily motivation to do what's important, to get on the phone and connect and build relationships with the marketplace. Third product you'll see there is my Freight Sales Success Training. This is a video course that'll take you literally from knowing little or nothing about freight to moving your first freight load and beyond. You'll also see there for sale again is my Freight Sales Success Skills. This product provides those intricate little skills that are required to handle different situations that you come in contact with. However, my Freight Sales Success Skills, along with my other products, are available today for purchase in my Freight Sales Success Store. And while you're there at my store taking in all this free information, on any page on my website you happen to be on, just over to the right, go over to the right and enter your contact details. By doing that, you'll receive your email invite to this and every call. Not only that, you'll receive the attachments that I provide on each and every call. And also, just as a freebie for opting in, you'll receive my free report. Again, it's just a free report. 11 ways freight agents will increase their income. Go through this as a beginning, struggling freight agent. This report will assist you in increasing your income. And just so you know, that report there has been downloaded thousands of times before. And if you have any questions whatsoever about what I went over today, or more importantly, more specifically, are you ready to join our top producing freight sales team? Then give me, Ted Keys, a call. I'm at 626-309-9141.
On the call today, a very good friend of mine, my freight sales expert guest is Ron Hummel. Ron resides from the trucking planet and also from St. Petersburg, Florida. Ron, welcome to the call. Are you there?
Oh, yes, I am. Thanks, Ed.
Awesome, Ron. Hey, Ron, just give us your story, whether you want to make it long or make it short, on, first of all, how did you get into the freight moving business or freight sales business?
Well, it's, we can go way back, but I probably...
Whatever you want to share with us, Ron, we'd like to hear it.
Okay. I'll run through this pretty quickly. As a kid, I used to change truck tires, change oil on the weekends. Did that through high school. After high school, went into the Marine Corps for 4 years, served 4 years in the infantry. When I came out of high school, the friend of mine I had changed truck tires for had a freight agency and had his own office down at the old Del X truck stop back in Philly. and I worked for him as a dispatcher for a few years until he was a little bit up in years, and he had had a heart attack and couldn't continue on with his business anymore. So he asked me if I wanted to buy his agency. So I bought his agency.
How old were you at the time, Ron?
Oh, I was 22.
22. Awesome.
22.
Did you know you were going to become an entrepreneur at the time?
No. Well, no. I was just learning the business. I wanted my own thing. I had a burning desire to, to do something. But opportunities kind of present themselves to you sometimes, and at this particular juncture, I was presented an opportunity to buy an agency, and by about 2 years later, I had, instead of being an agent, I had started my own thing. The agency thing kind of fell apart. It was one of the old common carriers who kind of went belly up, in the early 80s. But started my own brokerage company. At 27 years old, I was doing about $4.5 million a year gross. At 29 years old, I decided to buy trucks, which was probably a big mistake for me, because that's a whole nother animal that, I went to service a big account in New Jersey and needed to drop trailers on a regular basis. So went ahead and made the decision of buying trucks, which a lot of the money I made on brokerage I gave back when I bought those trucks. To be upfront with you.
Interesting.
Always better to give back 10% of the business and not just do the brokering and just do the agency sort of thing. I found out later on in life.
That's typically the case, Ron. If you have a trucking company and a broker agency together, isn't it? One is basically feeding the other.
Yeah, it's actually it's two. When you are trying to cut deals, you are actually representing both sides of the negotiation when you're doing that. The brokerage company gets the load, the trucking company, carries the load, and you're paying your trucking company a little bit more because it's yours, and it just kind of it doesn't become a true brokerage after a while. And just subject to the marketplace, whatever the marketplace would be.
Yeah.
After that, we had our first kid, and I was probably working about 16 hours a day, and said, I'm ready for a change. And the wife and I and my daughter just kind of, took off and went traveling across the country for 6 months. Sold all the equipment, went ahead and sold the accounts. And
how many trucks did you build your business up to, Ron?
Sorry, Ted, I'm working out on the patio today. I took the afternoon off, so if it gets a little noisy, let me know.
No problem.
Well, I had seven at the time. The 48-foot 102 van was the trailer.
Mm-hmm.
I had 7 new Fruhoff trailers. I had 4 twin screws. I had 4 straight trucks. I had 36-door cross-dock warehouse operation, which I was moving a lot of freight. I had one of our accounts. I drop trailers up in North Jersey and bring Texas loads back down to the warehouse in Philly, and we would unload and reload them after the drivers got empty in the afternoon, mm-hmm. and send them on their way to Texas. And mm-hmm. we had big accounts, Kraft Foods, Markel Paper, Emerson Quiet Cool, White mm-hmm. Westinghouse, mm-hmm. All big name guys. A lot of, accounts you wouldn't think you could come up with. We dealt with a company that was in the World Trade Center at the time called Nozaki. They were tuna fish importers, and it's a couple of guys sitting in an office that, were over from Japan, and boy, oh boy, they were, I didn't even realize it, but they were one of the largest tuna fish importers in the United States, and, mm-hmm. and just one of those gems that you find under a rock, So, we had worked with a lot of big companies, and then after I kind of got out of it and gave my brain a rest, I the wife and I decided to settle down in Pennsylvania Dutch country, and I became a sales consultant. Opened a little office in downtown, and
where was that again, Ron?
In Hanover, Pennsylvania.
Yep.
And I didn't realize it at the time, but I had rented the office of the local newspaper where they used to be before they moved to a bigger facility. And every morning when I came in, I would walk through the door, and in the envelope slot there'd be a whole bunch of envelopes on the floor with little $3 checks in them from people who were running classified ads. So I would call the newspaper and say, "Hey, you got more, checks over here. Come on over and pick them up." And so I befriended the fellow who had owned the newspaper and who had ran the paper, and we started kind of hanging out. And I said, "What would it take to, print a newspaper, in volume?" And so we got to talking, and at the time, I was just puttering around, making some freight commissions, and I thought, well, what the heck? I think I'll start a trucking newspaper, and I started that in 1988.
Yeah, hey, Ron, hold on a second. Now, this is after you took the family on a 6-month vacation. You came, you moved to Hanover, and you rented the space downtown to again get back in as a freight broker, freight agent. I
was working on commission. I was working for different companies that I had contacts with, and just doing some consulting, trying to regenerate some accounts that they had lost for them, and some of them I had received a retainer from, other ones were straight commission. So I kind of did that for a while and decided to do this paper, and started the paper in late '88, and did that until about 2003.
And that was called
The Dispatch.
The Dispatch.
In fact, there's a truck stop somewhere out where you're at, Ted, in California, where they have old publications shellacked to their tables in their restaurants, and everybody calls me and tells me my paper's in there, and I don't know which truck stop it is, but it's out there somewhere. But we would distribute. It was a business paper that the first half of it contained freight available, probably about 600 classified ads. The second part of it were carriers seeking freight, probably another 600 ads. It was the precursor to load boards and everything else. So, of course, with the exception of DAT, which had the screens at the truck stops, we were the only other thing out there that was, that published, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I was going to say, Ron, you had this area where brokers were listing their freight available in a newspaper. Boy, I mean, things obviously moved a lot slower 20, 30 years ago, didn't they?
Well, the problem with the paper was that it would come out the first of the month. So if you placed an ad on the second of the month, you had to wait till the first of the following month for the ad to appear. Yep. And of course, with the speed of the internet, you know how that goes.
Yeah.
So that kind of faded off. At that point, I had sat down and met with a major advertising agency, and I said, this is where I am. I want to take the resources of what I have, and I want to, continue on with my customers. What do you recommend? And they said, well, the Dispatch really doesn't say anything. If you told me, if I was walking down the street and you said I own the Dispatch, they really wouldn't know what that was. So
it sounds like it solved an advertising issue. But I mean, did you have articles in it, Ron? Anything like that?
Sure. I had written some stuff. I wrote an article about how important it was for freight brokers to freight brokers to be a presence in the marketplace, because it's the only real representation that people who motor carriers have out there in a lot of markets. And
you were blogging, Ron. That was your form of blogging.
Yes. Way
was your
back.
blog at the time.
and that story got picked up by some of the associations, and it kind of, brokers kind of kept motor carriers competitive in the marketplace as opposed to everything kind of going the, intermodal, piggyback, that sort of thing at the time. Right. So a lot of things, did a lot of newspaper related stuff, going to truck shows and that sort of stuff. And then, of course, after we had the powwow with the advertising agency, we changed the name of the newspaper to Trucking Planet. And I've been doing that since 2003 and since up until today. And Trucking Planet is basically a group of people who communicate with each other. There's about 250 groups. There's a group of people who have dry van freight, are involved in the dry van freight business in Texas, and another group that are involved in the flatbed business in Illinois, and the reefer business in Washington State. So there's different groups for different, people, and it's kind of like everybody that does that sort of thing is kind of like getting in a room saying, hey, what do you have? Hey, what do you got going on? Hey, what do you have happening? And where people kind of, I hate to use the word synergize, it's kind of corporate, but they kind of get together and find common ground and build relationships, and, it works out good for them. And in addition to that, I have a shipper database on the website that has about 130,000 factories that do any kind of major shipping. I have a carrier database where you can download the database from Washington of all the FMCA licensed motor carriers, freight brokers, and freight forwarders. You can advertise and market your own services, and I always thought, hey, stand on top of a mountain and say, I handle loads coming out of California, and I need freight, it's a great way to get the message out there. The website has about 65,000 monthly visitors, a little bit more now. Keeps going up, but a lot of people come there, go to the group that they want, see what's going on, and add their own stuff in there. You can private message other members and that sort of thing. And I'll conclude that for a second, and we can get into the freight sales part of it. But it's truckingplanet.com, just like the planet Earth. There's a monthly subscription for $9.95 that you can get in, cheap.
$9.95 allows you entrance, Ron. Correct?
Allows you full access to everything. Mm-hmm. There's also,
a month. Okay, go on.
There's also a lifetime account for $99. So let's say you were to, you were to be an agent for somebody, and maybe things didn't work out, and you wanted to be an agent for somebody else. The account continues with you no matter where you go, and no matter what part of your business changes. You can change your profile in your account. So. It's good to, I come from the old school, Ted, and I've always thought that, I've always been one of those people that plant seeds. I want to plant, when I did freight sales, I always wanted to plant a seed, and the seed, even if the seed was just getting the shipper on the phone, even if the seed was just getting him on the phone and leaving my phone number, if it was just, leaving a little, giveaway on his desk. I mean, where he would have access to my phone number, no matter, you don't want to be one of those people who, I'm getting into the freight sales part of it now, and I'll give you an example. I did an experiment some time back. And I went to every shipper that I could find in the Midwest and the Northeast, and I said, I need all your freight going to Florida that you have. Anything at all going to Florida, call me. Florida, 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 Florida. And so, of course, after the season dropped off, everybody called. You still go to Florida, Right,
after all the outbound Florida freight dropped off.
Sure. So
that's when you were asking for inbound.
Right. But
yep.
but the point was they identified me with Florida, and I think that people need to identify you with something.
Yep.
When you walk into a shipper, if you're talking to the guy, and you say, oh yeah, we got all kinds of equipment. We go 48 states to 48 states, and this is when you become the generic guy who goes into the filing cabinet with the 500 other generic guys, you're not really identified with something. So I always tell people that, no matter what you do, take one thing and try to resonate that message, with a shipper. So, in the course of his business, when he comes across that, he remembers, that you're his guy for that particular movement,
I tell this story frequently, just like you, Ron. I'm a farm boy from Wisconsin. And when I got into the industry, what did I know? Well, I knew farm commodities, especially bag feed. And, I started off by calling feed stores. Now, a lot of those, they just take pallets, but there are some good-sized ones out there, somewhat in obscure locations where, they have to deal with brokers and freight agents. And, basically you start somewhere, wherever it is, and I agree. Go in as a specialist. I specialize in whatever it is. If this company is moving air conditioners and you've moved a few air conditioning loads, well, then you specialize in air conditioners. Let's face it, there are more than enough companies out there competing with each other, but more than enough companies out there that require specialized individuals to move their freight, to move their equipment, to move their commodities, whatever it is. So basically, you were signaled out as the Florida expert. Is that what you're telling us?
Yeah, it was something that I put out there. I decided, let me do this. I would do anything. I had the ability to go anywhere and do anything, but I said, let me try to identify with known, people. I got a pretty good idea that ship to the southeast and the Florida, and let me run this up the flagpole to see how this goes. And I got a lot of accounts out of it. I got an account that. I got a lot of accounts out of Florida.
For outbound freight?
Well, everything weird, yes, outbound freight to New Jersey, outbound freight to Ohio, to Illinois. Not easy to get, but you just, when you do a good job, some people will say, I have a friend that ships to Galveston, Texas twice a week, and I was hauling bales of shredded paper from St. Petersburg to Dallas. I was hauling containment buoys from the east coast of Florida to the west coast of Florida when there was an oil spill, and they backed the truck right up on the beach and just pull the buoys out, or the containment things. And I was hauling a lot of freight out of southern Georgia. I had a company up there called Hanson Egg. They frozen eggs all over the darn country. I never saw so many eggs in my life.
You said frozen eggs?
Mm-hmm.
And what was the name of the company, Ron?
Hanson, Hanson.
Oh, Hanson. Okay. Hanson Eggs.
Yeah, they were big. I work in support of my customers now. I do not move any freight myself anymore.
Right.
If somebody calls me or somebody needs, somebody says, hey, you got any contacts out of here, and I'll either jog my memory or I'll look back through my stuff and whatever I can refer to them. I was handling spas coming out of Florida, going to all the Home Depot stores up the East Coast.
Wow.
I was handling, crazy stuff. I was handling olives from an olive importer in Kentucky coming down to Tampa. I was handling hot sauce coming out of Tampa going up to North Jersey. I was, I was handling cans of pumpkin out of Central Illinois and Oconomowoc, Wisconsin, coming down to Texas. I mean, it just it kind of viraled out. It just fed on itself, and that's what happens, when you get in there and you do a good job, and it works its way, through the system of friends and other plants and that sort of thing. So,
Ron, let's talk about a beginner freight agent. Now, at one point, you had your start as a beginner back in your early 20s, correct?
Sure.
How did that go for you? Give us a short synopsis of how that went. I believe you said you started off dispatching.
You started off dispatching.
Okay.
When I started doing my own thing, of course, the market's so different now. I mean, back then it was, buy yourself an industrial guide and get yourself a couple of highlighters and, just start going down the pages. Right. And call up and say, "Hi, how you doing?"
Were people difficult to get a hold of back then?
No, well, I would say that I probably got put through to shippers on maybe a 1 to 2 or a 1 to 3 basis. I mean, I'm very disarming when I talk to people on the phone. I mean, I don't.
You're quite mellow.
Yeah, I'll
mellow
make
and monotone.
Yeah, I'll make a joke or something. I mean, people are so busy, and people. I not to a point of being silly, but I will, try to be personal with the person who answers the phone, and it works for me a little bit better. Nowadays, I would say, you could go through an industrial guide all day, and if you get 5 shippers on the phone, you're probably lucky. It's just layers that are, people are overwhelmed. It's more competitive. And there are layers that are put in there. It used to be back in the 90s and the 2000s, they would tell you, well, everything's routed by the customer, and I can't help you. But nowadays it's shoot me an email, and I'll take a look at it, and that kind of goes in the circular file. So it's kind of hard to it's hard to actually connect with people. I have had some success with hiring retired, semi-retired freight salespeople who've worked for bigger common carriers, and who kind of thought they wanted to retire, but after they had nothing to do for about 6 months, they wanted to at least do something.
Mystic connections, things like that.
Yeah, and these are people that a lot of these old common carriers. These are people who they've had relationships with for years. They take them to the ball game, they take them golfing, right. The relationships there, and the relationship is where you want to get to. And if you can't do it yourself, or you're just somebody that's off the street, there's a lot of older folks who are collecting pensions and Social Security, who are willing to, work on straight commission. If you treat them fairly and everything. I've always found that this guy has some accounts he needs to nurture. He introduces you to the shipper over time. You build your own relationship with him, and everybody's happy, and it works out well. So, I mean, I don't know if, doing you got to have a lot of patience and a lot of wherewithal to just sit down and pound the industrial guide for 6 months these days. But I would say that, it's always, and the old folks read the paper all the time. So, rather than just put an ad on Craigslist, little help wanted commission ad in the local paper, which doesn't cost too much. Is
interesting.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, where as a trainer, which is what I do, how do you find these individuals that have been around and they're want to get back in? But yeah, you're right. They read the paper, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, the paper's still there. I mean, why not? So as long as it's not. Yeah, the major publications, the community publications are, $15, $20, $30 an ad. I mean, the major city newspapers are probably a couple of hundred. It all depends what your budget is.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's I think that's a good source. Of course, drivers. Geez, I mean, how many people see? It's turning into rush hour around here, getting a little noisy. I'm sorry about that.
No, we don't hear a thing, Ron.
Okay,
just so you know.
But there's a lot of ways to get business without pounding the industrial guide. Drivers, truck drivers, they pick up someplace every morning, they go someplace every afternoon or every other day. They're looking, they're saying things. There's 30 trucks backed up here, there's 12 trucks backed up here. I mean, what a resource for, a new agent or a freight broker to sit down and,
Give us an example of how that would work, Ron.
Well, I mean,
getting information from a driver.
Well, it's much more let me back up here. Back in the old days, okay?
Yep.
I hate to say that about myself, but the driver would come in and sign a lease. He'd actually come into the office and bring all his paperwork, and you would photostat it, and he'd sit down and you'd give him a glass of iced tea, and how's his day going, and that sort of thing, and you get to talking to him. Everything's so electronic now, you probably don't get a chance to see drivers. But, hey, the Mid-America Truck Show in Kentucky is coming up next month. It's only a few weeks away. There's, probably 50,000 drivers that, small trucking company owners that go there, just shooting the breeze. I think I was telling you in the pre-interview about the other day or last couple of weeks ago, I went to get a haircut at this old-time barber shop, and I'm sitting in the chair, and we start talking about what people do, and I told the guy that I do truckingplanet.com. He goes, I move 3 loads a week of glass out of Georgia coming to Florida. Can you help me with it? And of course, I just referred him to the website because like I said, I don't move freight anymore, but all these things come up. I mean, life is a sales call. Everything that you do, if you go to church, if you go to the synagogue, if you go to the Little League game, I mean, embracing, people and listening to people. Drivers are an excellent source. I mean, they're out on the road all the time. They're seeing where people are delivering. Hey, let me buy you lunch.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Look, do you know anybody?
They're such a valuable resource, and most of them, I won't say most of them, but there's a certain percent that are yearning for that human connection. And you of course you've got to play it out, but some of them are more than willing to offer, where they just picked up at, where they just dropped off at. I myself have brought in many customers that way just by talking to a driver. And again, there's questions that you ask them as you're dispatching them for your load. Some, not all will talk to you, but there's a good percent that do, because let's face it, Ron, it's not like you're out there with a bunch of other humans all day. You're alone most of the time.
It's really, the automation is wonderful. All the technology is wonderful, Ted, but it really it always comes down to people. 90% of all the freight out there, and people can disagree with me. Everybody says it's rates. Well, when you call people for the first time, or you just they kind of throw that barrier up there to you that it is all rates.
Say that again, Ron. What is it the first time?
Well, the first time you communicate with a factory, the first time you communicate with a shipper, it always seems to be about rates. But
Absolutely.
I really believe that 90% of all the business that's done out there, is done with people who offer a fair rate and do a good job, and make it easy for the customer to call you. Call into some endless voicemail system, have a way where the guy can call you, I mean, geez, that the greatest technology these days is, a guy calling you on the phone and picking it up and saying, hello, can I help you? I mean, it just doesn't
how
exist.
often do you make a call and the end of the line doesn't even answer?
Right, or you get put through, you get thrown in the cloud. Everybody's in the cloud these days.
Yeah, nowadays it's just a matter of answer the phone, and you'll get business. It's that simple. Go ahead, Ron.
The competition has changed, the technology has changed, but the core of the whole thing, Ted, is that people are still people.
We are still human beings, created a certain way.
And, I always, no matter where I go, I always show people respect. I always, I always, kind of connect anywhere I go. And I'm not making an effort to do that. It's just kind of the person that I've become.
Absolutely.
The world is a sales lead, is one of the things that, everybody says there's hardly any opportunity out there, only, they get thrown the rate thing in their face all the time, and, they get discouraged. How am I going to make any money on these rates? But there's a lot of end arounds to get business, and of course you have to do what you have to do during the day. You got to go, everybody, no matter who they are, including me these days, you got to go dig ditches every morning. You got to do the work that you need to do, before you get to the work that, you want to do. And, I think that, everybody needs to move loads if they have freight. But in the other times, I think that, if people develop their personal relationship, it leads into things, I could go, I can go anywhere and meet people who either have freight or know somebody that has freight or know somebody that has a warehouse or knows somebody, but the truck driver resource is much neglected. And we used to, before they had the technology, before everybody just clicked on the, load board button.
Absolutely.
It'd be 3:00 in the afternoon and the load wasn't covered, and if you didn't cover it by 5, the shipper was not going to give you any more freight, and oh my God, everybody was panicking.
Right.
So, somebody would, and most likely it'd be me, I'd get into the car and drive down to the truck stop and start, hanging loads up all over the truck stop, back when you back when you could.
Yep.
But I get to talking to guys, and I'd be there till like 9 or 10 o'clock at night. I'd completely forget about the load. And I'd say, I'd talk to the shipper the next day, but and he was normally pretty reasonable. But it was that sort of thing, and we just hang out, and of course. You'd hear stories, about the last trip over Donner Pass and the crazy places to deliver, like Hunts Point in New York, and all kinds of crazy things. And I just found it I just find the whole industry so interesting all the time. It's just it's just kind of a passion for me.
Well, it's an industry of hundreds of thousands of different players, and that's a good thing too, because the opportunity is endless. But let's face it, Ron, to start as a freight agent in this industry, the biggest challenge is just getting your agents to make phone calls and to continue to follow up. The average ability. How do I say this? The average individual, the average freight agent, will call a decision maker 2-3 times. They haven't given them anything, and they say, "Hey, I'm not going to get anything from this guy." Do you ever recall coming across that, Ron?
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, it's
par for the course hasn't changed much over the course of history.
It can be monotonous. It's very monotonous. Especially like I said, that when you go in the morning and you dig the ditches, that's the hard work, making the calls, and doing that thing. I mean, it takes, you have to really, really, some people will kind of fall off the boat after, a couple of weeks or a month or a couple of months, and those who can hang in there, I mean, it's a snowball effect.
Yeah, unfortunately, most will fall off the boat.
Yeah, well, you got to
fall off the boat, unfortunately.
Well, you got to eat and pay the bills. I mean, so I mean,
absolutely.
Absolutely. Two things that I wanted to mention, and this
fire away.
I had I think I had mentioned this to you. I had a brother-in-law who was a teaching pro at a driving range.
Got it.
And in the wintertime, of course, nobody's out golfing, so there's no work. And he says, you got anything at all you can do for me, And I says, oh, okay, come on in and work in sales. So he comes in, and he starts to talk to shippers about, golf and what's your score and what's my score, and I'm a teaching pro, and let's go out on the range, let's go out and hit a few balls and that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. And he went to the vice president he went to the vice president of I shouldn't bring up names, but it was Emerson Quietcool. Yep. And he took him out for he took him out golfing, and he shaved like 8 or 10 points off his golf score. Well, they became the best friends in the world, and all of a sudden, he was bringing in other vice presidents from other divisions, and my brother-in-law was teaching them all how to lower their golf score. And I thought to myself, this is getting a little expensive for me, all these vice presidents and stuff.
Right.
So I said to him, Joe, you can't, just go out golfing for a living, And,
yeah, well, again, Ron, was he moving any freight during this time?
Yeah, he was getting some freight, but
okay.
I kind of put the squeeze on him a little bit, and I said, look, Joe, you're going to have to, tell the guy you can't get out today because
you're not here just to golf.
Yeah, you're not here just to golf, right?
Right.
So the guy says, let me call you back in 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. He calls him back and he goes, here's 50 loads.
Now, just to get him out to golf.
Yeah, get up here and I got these people up here waiting for you. Here's 50 loads. And
wow.
I'm like, all right, go, go.
And Ron, it all started from a phone call.
Right.
It all started. I mean, obviously, your brother-in-law had to make a lot of phone calls before he got to that one. But
sure.
This is it's a profession where you are constantly a work in progress.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Would you agree?
Oh yeah. And you have to. It's a matter of not. Of course, you got to make the calls, you got to do the thing, but you got to nurture the relationships. You have to kind of follow where the relationships go. Mm-hmm. One day, the other thing I wanted to talk to you about is one day I was out on sales calls, and I went to Tropicana down in Florida, and I went to some other places, and I was having a crappy day, and it's 98 degrees out, trying to keep the sweat off me.
Very humid.
Yeah, in summertime, just a killer,
Yep.
So I'm going down the road, and I went to this store, and I bought this tape. Back, these self-improvement tapes. I always thought, yeah, sure, give me something to listen to between sales calls. I bought this tape called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Mm-hmm. And the whole thing was really interesting, but there was this one habit that was seek first to understand, then to be understood. Mm-hmm. And I rewound what I had done that day, and I had went in there and blurted off, we do this and we do that and we do this and we do that.
Never about us, is it?
Right. And, I said, this next sales call I'm going to go on, I'm going to go ahead and apply this and see how this goes. And I walked in and I looked around and I said, this is a heck of a place you got here. How long you been doing this, and the guy took me for a tour through the whole plant. It was Hispanic food company. I mean, his family worked there. I met everybody in his family. This is the first sales call, you know. I met everybody in his family. I was getting, 2 or 3 truckloads a week. It was just, I listened to that and I thought that, let me, understand first. And that's kind of probably where the golf thing went or some of the other things and the relationship, if you're going to make calls, if you're going to beat the phones and you can get somebody who will exchange with you on the phone, then it is important to listen and probably one of the things that people don't do the most of these days is listen. So,
Unfortunately. Yep, you're right, Ron. I train this repeatedly. It is never, ever about us. Our prospects could care less about what our service is or how great it is or how great we are. The connection is always about them first. That's why I'm always teaching when you go into a sales call, at least, have 3 bits of information about your prospect, not about you, but about your prospect that you can share with them to show them that you are taking an interest in them. Because the average sales call, the agent makes it all about them and their company. And, let's face it. Are you going to want to listen to somebody like that, Ron?
I'm sorry, you cut out there for a second.
Are you going to want to listen to somebody that calls you and tells you how great they are?
It happens to me every day, How
do you handle calls like that?
I say, I do the same thing that the shipper does to the agent. Send me an email.
Yeah. Exactly. But every so often or not often enough, you'll get this call where they tell you all about Trucking Planet and what you do, the service you provide. That's going to get your ears perked up, isn't it?
Oh yeah. Oh sure. I mean everybody. People that call me and say, I love your site, man. It's really cool. I'm all ears. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Are you up for a little Q&A?
Sure.
Before we wrap up here.
Sure.
First of all, it's been a true pleasure having you share your story today. We all have one, and we all want to listen to what yours is because you've been around for close to 40 years now, as far as being in this industry.
Yeah. Yes, I have. Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, you'd be the one to ask questions to. For those of you have any questions for Ron Hummel from Trucking Planet, hit *6. Hit *6. Just go ahead and hit *6 and announce yourself. Just tell us you're on the line and go ahead and ask Ron your question. I cannot stress how important it is when we go into a call, whoever it is, wherever it is, whatever they do, boy, make it about them. Make it about them. And even as you're sharing what you do with them, make it about them. I mean, it is
right.
It is all about our prospect. It's all about our customer. Nobody cares what we do. And when we get that right, that's when our prospects and customers start listening to us. Who's got a call for Ron? Hit *6. Call for Ron, hit *6. Let's get somebody in there with a question for Ron.
Hear me?
I got you. Go ahead.
Ted, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes.
Oh, okay. This is Chris from Seattle. I have a quick question. If I'm agenting for a particular...
Speak up a little more, Chris.
Yeah. You hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. If I'm agenting... Thank you. If I'm agenting for Mr. Keys at Logistic Dynamics and there's another agent that has secured that customer, but they still have a load for me. What should my response be?
That's probably a question for LDI more than it would be for me. I don't know how they. That'd be like the traffic cop. I wouldn't know how to handle that. But if they don't have, I mean, if they prefer to deal with you, I mean, that'd be something that LDI probably want to, chew over and talk about the most important things to get the business. But yeah. I mean, that's probably an LDI question, Chris.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Actually, it is an LDI question, Chris, and I will answer it for you. If there's a customer that's already working with LDI, and they specifically say, the customer specifically says, "Hey, I want to work with Chris." Now, let's put it this way. If that customer says, I mean, I've been working with this other agent, he's, so-so, but I've got 20 more loads that I can move through LDI because I like Chris so much, there's absolutely the opportunity for you to, to work the customer together. Chris.
Very good. Thank you. Hey, thank you, Mr. Keys. I have subscribed to truckingplanet.com, and I'm very grateful for this podcast. Good information. Unbelievable.
Oh, thank you, Chris. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Chris, were you aware of Trucking Planet before the call today?
I was not. I've never heard of it.
Awesome. Okay. Who's got the next question for Ron? Thanks for that question, by the way, Chris. Next question for Ron. Hit *6.
Hey, Ron.
Yes.
Can you hear me? This is Bernie from Washington.
Hey, Bernie.
So you were the guy from Florida, and that's kind of how you got your name, and then it created a lot of income and interest for you.
Yeah,
Where did that go from there?
Well, I had discussed this with Ted. Originally, when I did the paper, I did it up in Pennsylvania. When my son was born, he was born with a condition called atopic dermatitis. And after going to several doctors, the head of pediatric dermatology at Johns Hopkins said, you need to move to a warm, moist climate. So, we wound up being in the Tampa Bay area. And of course, his condition went away within a month after he had it for 2 years. It was kind of seamless, though. I mean, nothing really changed. I mean, back then there was an 800 number. You just call AT&T and say, make it ring here. These days, I don't know what the value, with everybody having free long distance, I don't know what the value of an 800 number is. Did I answer your question, Bernie? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was just kind of, I've seen you, I kind of got your whole story, and I'm seeing you, obviously you're doing pretty well where you're at right now. And then I just remember you were saying, which was great advice, by the way, is have something that will stick in people's head, that, like you're the guy from Florida, and I'm just kind of wondering if that must have segued into where you're at now. At some point it must have gone from that, and excuse me if I missed it, but I had to leave a couple times, segued into something that has taken you to where you're at now, which is basically you just stand back and collect money, I'm guessing, from your sign-ups.
Well, it's everybody.
Not that easy.
Yeah, no, everybody. They come. They want to have more contacts. My primary job now is to drive traffic to the website. I have a mailing list of about 20,000 people in the business. I have about 9,000 connections on LinkedIn. I have about 8,000 followers on Twitter. It's twitter.com/truckingplanet. And my profile on LinkedIn is Ron Hummel. And, so we can connect there too. But, it's just a matter of building it up. I mean, I had, in the middle there, everything isn't, a wonderful story from Oz or anything. I had my first wife became ill with ovarian cancer back in 2002. And, although I had, did my, I was making the change from hard copy to online, I had 3 years where she had required full-time around-the-clock medical care. And, so I took on, I took on some agency work and did some commission work there to help pay for some of the medical bills because they were just coming at me every day. So that kind of fills that void in there, about how I was doing freight and doing the paper thing. But then after about 3 years, I was on my own again and just did the truckingplanet.com thing. I just like to help people. I like to help people, get a couple of accounts, and I'm always available to talk, or call somebody back if I'm on the phone. It's a tough business, and there's a lot of good people out there. I mean, I knew this business was for me when I knew I could show up at the office and not have to have a suit on every day. I just knew that this was for me. So. So,
Bernie, did that answer your question?
Sure. I've enjoyed this.
Awesome.
Well, thank you.
Awesome. Who's got the next question for Ron, if you don't mind, Ron?
No problem.
Okay. Next question for Ron, hit *6. Again, this opportunity doesn't come around very often where you can get on a call and ask an expert about what it takes to move your customers' freight. Hey, Ron, what is your website address again?
It's truckingplanet, just like the planet Earth.com.
And do you mind throwing out a contact number if somebody wants to get a hold of you?
727-231-4200.
Awesome. And they can ask for you directly?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Did I hear somebody else coming in just now to ask a question for Ron?
I'm not catching his LinkedIn. I'm sorry, I got his LinkedIn. I'm not catching his Twitter. I'm not getting that. Twitter.com/truckingplanet, all one word. Okay, I got that one. Okay, thank you, sir.
Oh, no problem.
Any last thing you want to add, Ron?
No, all I can say is, hang in there, everybody. Geez, I mean, this is so up and down, and it's hard. I mean, I know, what you got to go through out there to try to, try to get some momentum going, and I just, it's out there, but it's just got to, turn over more rocks, I guess, these days. But there's a lot of people to help you, I mean, there's a lot of people like Ted and like me that, just, what do you need? I mean, you don't have to I mean, I talk to people all the time, and sometimes I hang up the phone and I say, hey, I didn't make any money, but I don't care. I'm to a point now where I'm just enjoying the heck out of what I'm doing. And,
yeah.
And
well, what it comes down to, Ron, is you will get out of anything compared to the amount of effort that you put into it. It's simple action reaction.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, plain and simple. And not only that, but as you get better at this profession, it becomes easier to get prospects and to turn them into customers. But
sure.
Let's face it, you must start somewhere. Whether you're, hauling whiskey barrels, Bernie. Or for me, my specialty is used clothes. I pick up a lot of used clothes out of Goodwills all across the country. A lot of those end up in Miami, LA, and Houston predominantly. But the goal is start somewhere. Start somewhere and always make it about them. It's never about us. It's never about how fancy our system is or how good looking we are, how well we talk. When you go in there with the idea or the mindset to assist your prospect, you will get the attention that you're seeking. I mean, it's guaranteed. Now, will you get it right away? No. It's going to take you a few times. Like, as I keep repeating myself, 80% of your sales will come between your 5th and your 12th contact. 80%. Most people quit at 1, 2, and 3 calls. Most of your sales come between call 5 and 12. Oh, how important it is to remember that. And as you get better and better, you're going to find that you're moving loads after 2 and 3 calls, again, because you're getting better at the profession. Ron, it's been a pleasure having you today. Ron Hummel, our freight sales expert guest. Again, one more time, your contact number, Ron?
Is 727-231-4200.
And your website address?
Is truckingplanet, like the planet Earth.com.
Awesome. Thanks again for joining us today, Ron.
In concluding my call, do you have any questions about what I just went over today? Any questions, regardless of what it is, or more importantly, more specifically, are you ready to join our top producing freight sales team? Yes? Give me a call, Ted Keys. I'm at 626-309-9141.